Hi, I'm State Senator Jason Allen. Welcome to Northern Michigan Update. Today we have Jeff Holyfield from the Consumers Energy Corporation. Jeff is going to give us a little bit of an overview of the background of what's happening within the CMS property network in Northwest Michigan. And as you know, the 37th District runs from Traverse City to Sault Ste. Marie, and so Consumers has had a long history in our area and a deep investment in our communities. Jeff, thanks for being here today.
Oh, well, thank you for having me, Senator.
We really appreciate your involvement. And so just to kind of start out with, tell us a little bit about the number of employees Consumers has. I know you have facilities in Traverse City, you have facilities in, I think, Sheboygan, and a little bit about the network that's up there.
Right. Well, we have overall 8,000 employees, and then we also hire 2,500 contractors to do work to help us maintain and improve service for our customers. All told, we've got 2.9 million customers.
Wow.
Because we do both natural gas and electricity. So we have an operation on one side or the other in all 68 of the Lower Peninsula counties, including the counties in your district. And so it's really one of those things that it's in our business, we're on the Consumers Energy side that people walk into the room and flip on the light switch and they don't think about it, and that's the way we like it, that we want to be there to serve our customers.
That's wonderful, and I know that your involvement in the communities has been very, very rich. Involvement with the United Way. Your employees have done a great job helping, being volunteers from anything from sporting activities to scouting to a variety of different things, and I know it's been an important part. What are some of the projects that do you know what they're working on right now as far as volunteers and those types of activities?
Well, that's a great question, because we have a program that's run through our foundation called the Volunteer Investment Program. And essentially the way that works is that if an employee or a retiree does 40 or more hours of volunteer service for a nonprofit group, then they can put in and get a grant. So we have grants of $300 to $400 to $500 that go to FFA chapters and 4-H chapters, Boy Scouts. We have one employee who's involved in a project with a steam railroad engine.
Oh my goodness.
And so it's really across the board, but it's a way to recognize those employees and their contributions to the community. Because we've been operating in Michigan for more than 125 years, so our employees live in the communities we serve, they're part of the communities we serve, and that's one of the ways that we can highlight them and kind of help those organizations and recognize those employees.
That's wonderful, and I think what the employees and Consumers, I had the opportunity of being in Traverse City and also in the Sheboygan office for Pizza and Politics, and it was a lot of fun to sit down and talk and learn a little bit about some of the issues that they're dealing with.
Yeah, our employees are just a great bunch of folks, and what people don't realize is that especially for our people out in the field who are working with the electricity and the natural gas every day, safety has to be their top priority, because we want every employee to go home safe. But it's one of those things when you realize that their job is to strap on all the safety gear and then go deal with high voltage power lines, stuff that I don't have the courage to do. But thank heavens we do have people who have got the training and the interest and want to do that to help serve customers.
Wonderful. Now, in regards to sort of the investments you're making up, and then I want to talk about a couple of specific properties. Are there any sort of big expansions in northern Michigan you're going to be looking at, or is it primarily just upgrades and repairs of existing lines?
Yeah, we're really looking at over the next 5 years, we plan to invest more than $6 billion in our utility operations around the whole Lower Peninsula. And a lot of that money is, as you said, going to be going into the building new substations, upgrading lines, adding lines. What a lot of people don't realize is we have a legal obligation to serve. And so when a customer builds a new house or a new business out someplace, we've got to get the service to them. So we're always expanding our system, upgrading our system, and making sure Michigan's families and businesses have the energy infrastructure they need.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, we have two properties up north that at times have been challenging, and I think Consumers has really tried to manage them well. I had the privilege of being with the whole crew and Mr. Petrosky at the decommissioning of the Big Rock nuclear power plant, and
Yeah.
and
That
did
was a great day, wasn't it?
wonderful wonderful celebration, and I just thought it was so appropriate how retirees came in and talked about their legacy, and learned a little bit about some of the research that went on at that site, and it's just wonderful. Now, it's pretty, right now the only thing that's on there is just sort of the containment of the property, and is there anything going on at that site that our viewers?
No, it's just essentially a green site that the decommissioning work was done there, was done successfully. The Nuclear Regulatory Commission has come in and they've cleared the whole site for the use of unlimited use. There is the spent fuel pad and the spent fuel casks that are there on a certain section of the site, but the rest of it is there and available. And if the federal government ever gets its act together, we'll get the spent fuel casks shipped off to a national repository where they were supposed to be more than a decade ago.
Right. What a neat site. We drove and toured that, the reclamation, and what a phenomenal job. I've got up in my office a piece of one of the old containers with the consumers site on it. Now, the other site that at times has been a bit of a lot of things written about in the newspaper and the activities has been this whole Bay Harbor site. And if you can go through, because I know some of our listeners are very understanding of the history, but can you kind of go through the history and how we, background? It was, I understand it was an old cement silo from some of the pictures I've seen in a cement processing plant.
Right, exactly. How that happened, and actually this was an operation involving one of the subsidiaries of the main company. It's not the utility, and so we always want to tell folks no utility dollars are being used on the Bay Harbor project. But CMS Land was one of the partners that developed the site, and the site was, as you described, it was there had been a limestone quarry and a cement plant that had operated there for more than 100 years. Wow. And it was a 1,200 acre site, 5 miles of Lake Michigan shoreline. Beautiful, except for the fact that there was all this rusting equipment and falling down buildings and the piles of the cement dust that was a byproduct of cement manufacturing there. And so back in '94,
so I believe it was the old Penn-Dixie Cement Company.
Right.
And we were over at Bay Harbor, and they had a little bit in their museum there, a little bit of the history, and then in downtown Petoskey at the historical site, the whole historical museum, one of the old railroad depots, there's a whole background on them. And they talked about at Christmas time they would give out silver dollars or some sort of a unique currency that would show the amount of dollars that Penn-Dixie was spending in the community. And so it was a large employer for many generations.
Yeah, and they produced a lot of cement that was used to help build our nation.
Wow.
And but it was the site was redeveloped, and it was on either end there's a park, and then in the middle there's the Bay Harbor development, which and that whole development has won numerous awards as far as the largest reclaiming a brownfield site and turning it to a productive use, and the economic benefits have been tremendous. In fact, economically, that's provided a $150 million boost to the economy in Northwest Michigan since it was built, and so that's the kind of the background of it.
So out of that, the way the Michigan brownfields laws were written, it's my understanding that there was either the moving of the dust or the remnants or the containment issues. And so kind of talk through on I guess under the Engel administration they chose the containment, and how does that work?
Yeah, well, essentially there's a lot of material there, the cement dust. There's about 2.5 million cubic yards of it, and it was scattered all over the site. And at the time there was a study done about, well, how do you deal with this? And you're talking about tens of thousands of truckloads to haul it away. And so the decision was to put it in site, isolate it, and so in essence there were 4 locations where the cement kiln dust was consolidated, and then they covered it with clean soil and rocks and everything. It was the standard at the time, back in the early 90s, and all of that. And then if you fast forward to 2004, there was an issue with elevated levels of alkalinity being detected along the shoreline in certain small sections.